The Ain't No Fang Podcast. From Arizona Sports, Ain't No Fang.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Ain't No Fang, Arizona Sports Diamondbacks podcast, coming to you on a Tuesday. My name is Alex Weiner, and today is the start of the general managers meetings out in Las Vegas. And with that, we have a special guest on. It is Bob Nightengale from USA Today, Major League Baseball insider. He's out at the Cosmopolitan on the Strip where these meetings are taking place, and he's going to give us kind of the lowdown of what's going on around the league, but also when it comes to the Diamondbacks. He just came out with a column previewing the hot stove in which he actually listed Ketel Marte on a list of players who could be on the trade block. And so we asked Bob about that, what the likelihood that Ketel possibly gets traded is, and some more about what's going on in the National League West and around the league. So here's our conversation with Bob Nightengale. Bob Nightengale from USA Today joining me live from Las Vegas over at the Cosmopolitan where the general managers meetings are taking place. Bob, how's everything going? How's Las Vegas?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah, thanks a lot, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously wanted to bring you on because we read your column yesterday about setting up the hot stove this winter, kind of the biggest storylines in Major League Baseball. And obviously you caught a lot of Diamondbacks fans' attention by including Ketel Marte in your list of, players who could potentially be on the trade block. And so you were on Wolf and Luke earlier today and mentioned that the trade's probably not super likely to happen, but that they'd be, open to listening. So what are kind of the motivations behind why they could be open to moving somebody like Ketel?
Well, a few factors. One, he's got 10 and 5 rights 10 days into next season, which means he has a full no trade clause. So, obviously he ruffled some feathers last year by missing time after the All-Star break, ruffled some feathers by missing time, and kind of the coaching staff needed to talk to him down the stretch, like, hey, you need to play today. You can't take today off. So, it's going to be a high asking price, but they want to say, you know what? We need a lot of young pitching. Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like, just, trade from your farm system and try to go get some pitching, but that's easier said than done in terms of what teams are going to evaluate. Like, what do you think makes Ketel a particularly enticing fit for a lot of teams who may be willing to part with young starting pitching?
Well, certainly a supreme talent at second base. When he's healthy, he's as good as any second baseman out there. And a very team-friendly contract. You got him locked up till 2030. So no, you would have there was no issues at all as far as in the clubhouse missing time. You would have tremendous value. The one thing that puts them back is like if teams say, "Wait a minute now, why are the Diamondbacks going to trade this guy?" Sure. We got to look into him too because the Diamondbacks know him better than anybody knows him.
Right, and gut feeling. What do you think? Do you think he gets moved, or do you think the Diamondbacks will find other ways to try to address their pitching problems?
I think they'll find other ways. I just think that the asking price will be so high, and I think that at the end they'll be gun shy. Like, are you sure you want to trade this kind of talent away? We can certainly get some veterans in here to kind of guide him, that sort of thing. And a little bit, like Matt Chisholm when Jazz Chisholm went with the Marlins. Obviously, the Diamondbacks had him too. Marlins were crazy about him. And then on the best behavior in New York when he had a strong clubhouse influence in Aaron Judge. So I think a lot of teams will say, you know what, even though the Diamondbacks have had some problems with them, we think we can get him to be, a guy that wants to play every day.
As someone who's, with me in the Chase Field press box pretty much every single home game, how far do you think that this team is potentially to contention, whether it is in 2026 or in 2027?
I think realistically, you're looking at 2027. Just too many holes in the rotation, in the bullpen. Just too much money on the injury list. I mean, you're paying Corbin Burns $35 million. I know they say, I'll be back second half. Well, you got to be careful. All the money you still owe him, everything else. I think realistically, will he be 100% next year at any time? Probably not. And you're probably not even going to start pushing him at all until September. So it's just too much money on an injury list for a team that's a mid-market team.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, not only have Burns, but Lourdes Gurriel opting into $13 million, and he's not going to be ready until the last couple of months, maybe, after he tore his ACL in September. AJ Puck and Justin Martinez, obviously. So, it's going to be difficult to navigate a payroll that is expected to come down a little bit while also dealing with that much money being on the injured list. So moving on to kind of looking around the league, obviously you mentioned in your column that the Dodgers are once again looking to be an aggressor this offseason. What else could they possibly do after winning back-to-back World Series?
They need a closer. I mean, what they did in the playoffs, you can do the playoffs. You can't do the regular season. Will Tanner Scott bounce back? We don't know. They'll cut ties with Kirby Yates, so they'll be after some big time closers here. Edwin Diaz would be a perfect fit. I think Pete Fairbanks, who just got non-tendered by Tampa, I think he's a perfect fit for the Dodgers. And they like those Tampa Bay guys. They got Tyler Glass now. They got Blake Snell. I think he's a good fit there.
It's true. They could rebuild the 2020 Tampa Bay Rays pitching staff that they battled with in the World Series.
Right, exactly.
Is Kyle Tucker a realistic option for them at this point?
I think they'll keep teams honest. Like, okay, well, we're in it, but we're not going to be the high bidder just because they don't need them. Just like you said, Alex, they just won 2 World Series without them. Even with Conforto's problems, everything else, they do have 3 or 4 young outfielders in the farm system. So I think they'll be involved. I don't think they'll be the high bidder.
Okay. Looking around the National League, obviously it's a lot of teams who are flawed, trying to make up ground on the Dodgers. Who are you looking at in terms of being particularly active this offseason to try to make that next jump?
I think the Giants. I think you're paying $10.5 million for a manager this year. You're paying $3.5 million, the most ever for a first-year manager in Tony Vitello. You had to do his buyout, $3 million in Tennessee. And you're paying $4 million to Bob Melvin and go away. So you're spending that kind of money on a manager, you better be all in. They got Devers already. They got a lot of guys locked up. So I think they're going to focus on pitching. They need to get some more starters.
What do you think of the San Diego Padres just kind of bouncing around the National League West here?
I think they'll take another step back. I just think that the big time contracts, I don't think they're going to spend much money. I think they lost money in the last 2 years. I think eventually they're going to have to trade Tatis. And I don't think it's going to happen now. But eventually someone's got to go. Manny Machado's contract's immovable. So is Alexander Bogart. So Yu Darvish is. At some point, someone's got to go.
So would you say, kind of sitting right now before all the madness happens this offseason, the greatest threat to the Dodgers in the National League West might be San Francisco at this point?
Yeah, I would go San Francisco for sure. I mean, they were knocking the door last year. But we were spending, take on $250 million for Rafael Devers, $182 for Willie Adames, Chapman's up about $150 or so. Logan Webb, those type of guys. But yeah, I think they're going to be all in, trying to knock off the Dodgers. I think they'll be easily the most aggressive team in the division.
What did you think of the Vitello hire? Just what was your opinion of it?
Kind of stunning. Just he has never done it. It's such a huge gamble. I mean, he works in college ranks, but is it going to work at MLB? Excuse me. I think it'll be the most fascinating story in all of baseball next year.
Okay, lots to watch out for in the National League West as the Diamondbacks try to compete with some of these other teams. Looking around the league, the GM meetings are getting going. A lot of general managers are going to be available to the media these next couple of days. What, other than what we've talked about, are some of the biggest storylines that you're watching out for as this week unfolds?
Excuse me, Alex. I think obviously the AL East. I mean, the Yankees, they're going to be big spenders. Baltimore has got to spend money against some pitching. Toronto, I just made $15 million off the playoffs. They want to repeat and get back there. I think the AL East was fascinating. And we'll see what happens to the Mets. They got to get some starting pitching. I don't think they bring back Pete Alonso. I really don't.
Really? Where do you think he goes?
I'm thinking Boston. I think Boston would be a great fit. You need a first baseman. You can rank right there with the short porch and a pesky pole. So, yeah, I think I like Alonso in Boston.
Huh. Okay. That's going to be interesting. Do you think just going, the trade market, the pitching market is obviously going to be of great interest to Diamondbacks fans in the club this offseason. Do you think Tarek Skubal gets traded? And how about Freddie Peralta when looking at those potentially top guys who could be out there?
I don't think either guy. I don't think the Tigers can trade him without just upsetting the entire fan base. Have people go ballistic. Like, wait a minute now. We're trading away the best starter in baseball. We want to get back to the World Series. And Peralta's so cheap. 1 year, $8 million. I talked to Brewers people about that. You can't get that for equal value. So I think they have to keep Peralta. Hey, they want to run it back. I mean, they're dominant division, and I think that go back again. You need Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, I think it's easy to look at the Brewers' track record and be like, all right, it's getting towards free agency. It could be somebody who could be available. But yeah, I mean, they just made it to the National League Championship Series. And so that's not something that's, easy to part with. Last question for you, Bob, before I let you go here. And that is, the Diamondbacks can push for a postseason spot next year if what happens this offseason, do you think?
Just everything would have to go right. They would have to get some studs back in pitching, and then have to have guys really step up and be that guy. The guys that they aren't counting on in the minor leagues, the guys they have right now. I think Brandon Pfaadt would have to be, a Cy Young type candidate. I just think so much would have to go right pitching wise for them to challenge, the Dodgers and even the Giants for that matter.
Okay. Bob Nightengale from USA Today. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes, enjoying all the coverage out there in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Alex. My pleasure.
Thanks so much to Bob Nightengale for joining the show. Lots of interesting things there. Obviously, main takeaways are that while the Diamondbacks are open to listening on trade offers of Ketel Marte, it seems rather unlikely, and they certainly are not shopping Ketel Marte. And that's sort of the reporting that came out from us with John Gambadoro yesterday. It's an interesting thing, right? Because he's so important to this team. He's been such an unbelievable player these last few years, the last 3 years especially in a row, where he helps lead them to the World Series in 23 with an epic postseason, is an MVP finalist in 2024, and then is an All-Star once again in 2025. Team-friendly contract. He's locked in for a number of years. And there's been a little bit of baggage this past season, but there's no denying his value to this club on the field and to that core in the lineup with Corbin Carroll and Geraldo Perdomo and Gabriel Moreno. At the same time, the Diamondbacks are in dire need of pitching help and controllable pitching help, ideally. And so if there's a way where they get blown away from an offer where they can reset their rotation, then that's something to listen to at least. But for those who are worried about Ketel Marte no longer being on the Diamondbacks, I would say it's probably going to take a lot in order to get him off there. And more likely than not, he will be back at second base next season. But we'll see how the offseason plays out. We'll see what the Diamondbacks can do in terms of figuring out their rotation, right? Because it's Brandon Pfaadt and Ryan Nelson and Eduardo Rodriguez and Corbin Burns once he comes back from Tommy John surgery, whenever that is. And then you got some pieces that you're going to have to fit in there and try to find ways to get through the season with the starting rotation. So we'll see what goes on there. We'll have plenty more from potentially this week, what happens as we get deeper into this offseason. So keep it locked in on Arizona Sports and the Arizona Sports app for all things Diamondbacks. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and have a great one.